Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today I would like to have a discussion about Nintendo Switch 2. This is not going to be an elaborate video, just me sort of jumping on the microphone and just kind of talking. The editing may be very simple today, but I just wanted to get out this idea that I've been thinking about for a little while, and as the title of the video may suggest, I'm kind of tackling this question or issue of Nintendo Switch 2 possibly being too late by the time it comes. Will this system take too long, or will it be coming out around the correct time? But before diving further, let me point out that we are still aiming for a goal of 40,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and enjoy the ride as we attempt to discuss Nintendo related things every day. So this question has been going around lately. And the reason for that is because of the several reports that have come out over the last few weeks that are all indicating that Nintendo internally has pushed back Nintendo Switch 2 to early 2025 at the very earliest. It could possibly even take longer. And so the implication here is that Switch 2 was meant to come out sometime in 2024. But what's also interesting is that last week we talked about a rumor coming from the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead that is apparently known for having solid NVIDIA sources, and their NVIDIA sources were suggesting that this Switch 2, the T239 chip that was actually leaked from the big NVIDIA leak a couple years ago, has been done for a couple years. Theoretically, Nintendo could have launched this console as early as 2023. Now, I'm sure there would have been a lot of hurdles that would have held Nintendo back from doing that, hence why it didn't happen. But perhaps what's somewhat of a head-scratcher here is why the internal delay, because different reports and rumors have suggested different things. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. Some have suggested it's to get the games lineup ready. Some have suggested it's because they want to sell out as many Switch 1s as possible. Others have said it's to build up enough stock so they can beat out scalpers at launch. We're not entirely sure what the reason is, but during these discussions, many have suggested that the Switch 2, by the time it comes out, will be dated hardware, and that it would be too late. So I would like to tackle these ideas here, because I'm definitely someone that's coming from the mindset of, well, yeah, it is about time for Switch 2. But does that mean it will be too late? I don't think so. But I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Because the fact of the matter is, for this current fiscal year, I'm recording this on March 8th, and the fiscal year will end at the end of the month. This would be the third year of declining sales. And that is not a great thing in general for a company to have, a third year of declining sales. And if Switch 2 does not come out until the very end of the next fiscal year, that will not be enough time to make up for poor sales throughout the year. And so we're likely looking at a fourth year of declining sales, which is definitely not a good thing. So from that perspective, I do think it would be too late. But at the same time, while we are talking about declining sales, these declining sales are still fantastic sales. The decline has not been incredibly drastic compared to prior generations, and Nintendo's had incredible highs. And perhaps these years of declining sales are worth it for Nintendo, because it's going to position them to have an incredible start to their next generation that could perhaps be as successful as a Switch 1, if not even more so. And if all the decisions they're making are ultimately going to lead to the best long-term success, then that's what matters the most. Short-term success only matters in the short term. If Nintendo is a healthy enough company to keep things going, then they need to focus on the long term, not the short term. And from what we gather, Nintendo is doing very well. While yes, they've had declining sales, as I said, these sales have been still incredibly high. They had incredible successes like the Mario movie last year. And also something else we've discussed in the past, Nintendo isn't putting out their own games on different platforms. They keep them on Nintendo, and this does make their systems more valuable, but I think it's a really interesting point to be made, because when you take a look at, for example, Microsoft, Xbox, they're putting their games everywhere. And then even Sony's putting their games on PC. Why do they do this? because they need more revenue. They are not making enough money with their game sales, so they're trying to increase sales as much as possible. This is also why we see games see more price drops on Xbox and PlayStation. It's not because Xbox and PlayStation are nicer companies and are more consumer friendly just out of the goodness of their hearts. It's out of necessity because they're trying to push sales as much as possible. Their games just do not sell as well unless they do the price drops. Meanwhile, Nintendo still has full price games from many years ago. And then some games have increased in value due to their age. And so what I'm trying to get at with all this is that Nintendo's value is very high, and they are a very healthy company, more so than others. You look at all these different layoffs that are happening right now, and a lot of that has to do with not enough money being made. So corners need to be cut. Now, why is this the case? Many think it has to do with the rising development cost of games and how challenging it is for these expensive games to become successful products. They need to sell a lot. So when you have big, expensive AAA efforts that then need to be price dropped really quickly and put out on other platforms, that's not a great thing. And so you look at Nintendo, who uses dated hardware, who doesn't need to price drop their games or their systems, and continues to sell well, if not better than the competition, without having to put their games on other platforms. What that suggests is very high value in the Nintendo product. It suggests very high profit margins, and they're not spending as much on development resources with these extremely expensive games. They're getting more with less. And so you look at this conversation regarding Switch 2 and whether it's going to be too late for the console by the time it comes out, if it'll be dated hardware. Well, Nintendo's done just fine with dated hardware, and you can make the argument that maybe the industry overall should slow down a little bit. Now, I like more powerful hardware. I may be mainly a Nintendo gamer, but I still like it when games look amazing. I still love it when games run well. I want all my games to run well. And this is definitely important. But also, there have been plenty of games on my Switch that I have felt have looked and ran fantastic. Take Pikmin 4 for example, Metroid Prime Remastered for example, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for example. These are all amazing, high quality games that look fantastic and do some spectacular things for the console. And yet the Switch is vastly underpowered compared to other platforms out there. But these games can still be amazing. And I do think there is room for improvement, but I think the room for improvement isn't going to be leaps and bounds better than what we're currently experiencing. I do personally believe in this idea of diminishing returns, in the sense that the more effort that's being put in, the less results we're getting from it. And so while consoles may be getting more vastly powerful, we're not noticing as significant of differences. Just look at the transition from PS4 to PS5. A lot of people have still been playing on their PS4s. I'm one of them. I recently transitioned to PS5 and it's fantastic. I think the games look amazing. But do I think they look vastly better? Not really. They look better, and I appreciate the difference. But we're not talking about the gap from PS1 to PS2, or N64 to GameCube, or even Xbox to 360. The jumps don't feel as vast anymore. And there also seems to be this strong sentiment that we're still not even really taking full advantage of the current gen platforms, and there's already talks of a PS5 Pro and things of that nature, advancing the hardware before most people even feel like the current hardware is being maximized. With Switch 2, while I am optimistic that this is going to be a pretty healthy, hearty jump from Switch 1, and I even think there could be some strong third-party support like the rumors of Monster Hunter Wilds coming to the console, it's not going to be nearly as powerful as the competition. And 7 years from now, there's probably going to be similar discussions that the system is very outdated and Nintendo is due for an upgrade. And while this all may be true, what else is likely going to be true is that Nintendo's still going to be very successful. They're still going to have great profit margins, and many people will still be enjoying the console. You look throughout the generations of Nintendo handhelds, and power has never really been a concern. Let's take a look at the PSP versus Nintendo DS situation. The PlayStation Portable is the most successful video game handheld of all time that is not from Nintendo. And yet, the Nintendo DS still completely dwarfed it in sales. The Nintendo DS is the second best-selling console of all time, and so if the power disparity there wasn't going to make a difference, I'm not sure it ever really will. As long as Nintendo's making their own sizable jumps for their hardware, I think it's going to be fine. Now, in terms of Nintendo being successful and reaching a larger audience, I think they're going to do that, but are they maximizing their success? And I think there's still a conversation to be had there. Because I mentioned earlier how I think we're going to be getting strong third-party support on Switch 2, but that is not a foregone conclusion. And that's where I think the debate really lies. Will Nintendo position the Switch 2 in a way where it will secure strong third-party support? Will it get Monster Hunter Wilds? Will it get the next Grand Theft Auto? Will it get the next Elder Scrolls game? And things along those lines. That remains to be seen. But at the very least, I think the success that Nintendo has seen with the Switch, they can very much emulate with Switch 2, even by coming out in early 2025. I don't think coming out just a few months later is going to change how we perceive the console from a power perspective, at least the masses. There will always be some people that feel it's dated. There are people that felt the Switch was dated from day one. But from my perspective, it was an amazing jump over 3DS, and the idea of having console-like quality games on the go back in 2017 was impressive to me. And so what's going to be the impression with Switch 2? Well, I'm excited to see that once Nintendo shows it, hopefully later this year. But what do you all think? Do you feel that Switch 2 will be too late? Or do you think it'll be just fine? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.